The Curse of the Abandoned Amusement Park. It started as a joke, one of those things that teens say to one another to show how fearless they are. It was Danny's idea. "How about we check out the old Blackwood amusement park?" he said, eyes gleaming with mischief. Everyone knew Blackwood. The amusement park had been closed for nearly 2 decades after a tragic accident claimed several lives. Since then, it had become a local legend, a place where the bravest would dare each other to go but few actually did. Emma, the cautious one in the group, hesitated. "You know it's supposed to be haunted, right? People say they hear screams late at night." Her words were met with laughter, but there was a tension beneath it, an unspoken acknowledgement that something about the park wasn't quite right. Still, the group decided to go. Danny, Emma, Lucas, and Sarah, all close friends who had grown up together in the sleepy town of Blackwood, were always up for an adventure. Armed with flashlights and their phones, they set off toward the park just as the sun dipped below the horizon. As they approached the entrance, the once vibrant amusement park stood before them in eerie silence. The gates, rusted and overgrown with vines, creaked in the wind, and the giant Ferris wheel loomed in the distance like a ghostly sentinel. None of them knew that stepping through those gates would seal their fate. Chapter 2: Entering the Nightmare. The entrance gate was unlocked, swinging open with a groan. Danny led the way, flashlight in hand, while Lucas and Sarah followed closely, their excitement barely masking their fear. Emma lingered behind, casting nervous glances over her shoulder. Once inside, the park seemed frozen in time, as if it had been abandoned overnight. Rides stood still, covered in rust and decay, while faded carnival posters fluttered in the breeze. The once cheerful music from the carousel echoed faintly through the air, warped and distorted, sending chills down their spines. "Let's check out the roller coaster," Danny suggested, his voice a little too eager. The others agreed, though Emma could feel the tension building. Something was wrong. The air felt thick, heavy with the weight of unseen eyes watching them. As they made their way through the park, they passed by abandoned food stalls, broken arcade machines, and lifeless rides. Shadows seemed to shift unnaturally, and the sound of their footsteps echoed eerily in the empty space. When they finally reached the roller coaster, its towering tracks twisted and curled like the spine of a long-dead beast. A sign at the entrance read, "The Devil's Descent." "That's not ominous at all," Sarah muttered, but Danny was already climbing onto the platform. The group stood at the roller coaster platform, staring at the derelict cars. They were worn, covered in grime and rust, but strangely, the tracks appeared clean, as if they had been used recently. "Who's going first?" Danny grinned, but no one responded. Then, with a sudden clank, the cars jolted to life. The sound echoed through the park, a haunting mechanical groan that made everyone jump. "Okay, that's enough for me," Emma whispered, turning to leave, but the gate slammed shut behind them with a deafening bang. They were trapped. Panic set in as they tried to pry the gate open, but it wouldn't budge. Meanwhile, the roller coaster creaked and groaned, the cars now beckoning them with a terrifying allure. "We have to ride it," Lucas said, his voice shaky. "Maybe that's how we get out." Reluctantly, they climbed into the cars. The restraints locked down on them, and the coaster began its slow ascent. The higher they climbed, the more the park stretched out beneath them, a twisted labyrinth of broken rides and decaying attractions. As they reached the peak, a voice crackled through an unseen speaker, "Welcome to the Devil's Descent. Hold on tight." Without warning, the coaster plunged downward at breakneck speed. The wind roared in their ears as they twisted and turned through the abandoned tracks. But this was no ordinary roller coaster. As they flew through the dark tunnels, they caught glimpses of figures in the shadows, distorted faces, empty eyes, and reaching hands. The screams of long-forgotten souls echoed all around them. By the time the ride screeched to a halt, they were breathless and shaking. The restraints released, but no one moved. What was that? Sarah gasped, her voice barely above a whisper. No one had an answer. Let's just find another way out, Emma said, her nerves frayed. The others agreed, but as they stumbled through the park, they realized something horrifying. It was changing. The paths twisted and turned in ways that made no sense, and no matter where they went, they ended up back at the same place, the entrance to the Hall of Mirrors. The building was decrepit, the mirrors inside cracked and filthy. But they had no choice. They stepped inside, their reflections distorted and fragmented in the shattered glass. The further they ventured, the more the reflections seemed to take on lives of their own. At first, it was subtle, an odd movement here, a strange expression there, but soon the reflections began to act completely independently. Lucas stopped in front of one mirror, staring at his reflection in disbelief. Guys, this isn't right, he began, but his reflection grinned at him, a wicked, twisted smile that wasn't his own. The reflection reached out from the mirror, its hand breaking through the glass with a sickening crack. Lucas screamed as the reflection grabbed him, pulling him into the mirror world. The others tried to pull him back, but it was too late, he was gone, leaving nothing but a broken mirror in his place. Panicked and desperate, the remaining three ran blindly through the park until they found themselves at the carousel. It was still spinning, though the horses were cracked and faded, their eyes hollow and soulless. Do we have a choice? Sarah asked, her voice trembling. They knew by now that every ride held a terrifying secret, but there was no other way. The moment they stepped onto the carousel, the world around them began to warp. The horses came to life, their once gentle expressions twisting into snarls. The ride spun faster and faster, the world outside blurring until it became a whirlwind of color and sound. Suddenly, the horses began to whisper, low, guttural voices that spoke of the park's dark history. The park had been cursed by its owner, a man who had made a deal with dark forces to ensure its success. But when the deal backfired, the park became a prison for the souls of those who entered, feeding on their fear and despair. As the carousel spun faster, the voices grew louder, overwhelming their senses. Sarah screamed as one of the horses reared up, its mouth wide open as if to swallow her whole. The carousel came to a sudden stop, throwing the three of them to the ground. Dazed and terrified, they stumbled to their feet, realizing they were back at the entrance of the park. But something had changed. The gate, once locked, now stood open. Without a word, they ran toward it, hearts pounding in their chests. As they crossed the threshold, they heard a voice behind them, "Come back soon." They didn't stop running until they were far from the park, their breaths ragged and their minds reeling. They had escaped, but the horrors they had witnessed were burned into their memories forever. And somewhere, deep within the ruins of Blackwood Amusement Park, the rides continued to turn, waiting for the next group of unsuspecting visitors. And so, dear viewers, this is the chilling tale of The Curse of the Abandoned Amusement Park. Remember, not all adventures are worth the risk, and some places are best left forgotten. This thrilling, suspense-filled tale will keep your young adult and teen viewers on the edge of their seats, perfect for those who enjoy stories of mystery, horror, and dark secrets.